The UK government have just spent £500,000 on rebranding gov.uk. The one with the black background is the old logo, the one with the blue background is the new one. From the outset, this £500,000 rebrand looks like a dot has been added, the background colour has changed, and that's it. In fact, the Telegraph have been talking about it. Dotty civil servants spend £500,000 on a full stop. Let me just put this up. Yeah, I feel like I was just moulding into the background a bit. Some in the UK are quite, annoyed and angry that they would spend £500,000 on a rebrand with not much to show for it. Well, let me actually show you the 150-page dossier, which is just a brand guidelines that you can download at the link below. Okay, first of all, we have an introduction to this 150-page brand guidelines document, which is huge. It goes through the graphic devices and everything else. Why would they need to have such a massive amount of information if not much has changed? Well, let's keep going. Okay, I'm not going to read you all this, but essentially the brief for the refresh of the brand was that the website looks old, the website looks intimidating, and it doesn't look as modern, and they want to spice it up by making it look more friendly, but also not alienating people who already know the website, gov.uk. And also they're going to be expanding the gov.uk website too. So let's go through this and find out. Here's a bunch of information of why they're doing the refresh here. And then we go down to here, which is what everyone is wanting to see, which is the graphic device. A graphic device is a term used for one shape or a series of shapes that acts as a frame or that can move, that can do a lot of different things. And what they're doing with this circle is they've obviously made it look like it's more than it is, it's just a circle. But using that circle, they can have a touch point on different parts of their website. So let's have a look. Concept. A dot is the bridge between the government and the UK by the side of users to help make information and services easier and more useful. Used within our wordmark and as a graphic device across all gov.uk channels, the dot is a guiding hand for life. Okay. Essentially, whenever you see this blue dot, you'll know it's a gov.uk thing. Okay, so this is the storyboard. So here is some of the animations. When we don't have an animation, but we want to create a storyboard or just the idea of one, this is how we do it. You can see, you can go on here to understand your benefits, your passport, your childcare, the transport. Essentially, the start of this document is all about this dot and how it's going to be used everywhere. A very simple shape. You can see how it's being used here as the guide. It's in a circle. You can see it here on highlighting, so it's the rounded corners. See it here on the illustrations with the piggy banks. Essentially, rounded shapes are more friendly, and what they're saying is that if you're going to use this dot everywhere, this is how you use it. You can see here a loading screen, info transitions, illustrations, it's all got this dot. So this is known as a visual language. This dot is going to be used a lot, and in brand identities, when we're creating a visual language inside the identity, you can use a simple shape or the logo, make it move, but as long as it's repeatable and can be used in many different areas, that's how the illustrative or the brand visuals work. Here's some examples of how the dot might work, and you can see here there's a lot of extensive work that's happened. They've actually done a really good job in explaining it. Here's how the dot could be used in illustrations. Everything's rounded, very friendly. There's not a lot of personality, and that's because this is a government institutional website. It's not a brand, a commercial one that you would see. It's just very blasé, very magnolia. But you can see here that this is more than just a dot. It's creating a framework for this dot to be used. Here's a Instagram story, kind of storyboard that they've got here for the dot. And it shows the incorrect usage, like changing it up a bit and doing two. Overusing the dot, which I would argue they're doing. Over the past 6 months, I've been using Framer to redesign our whole agency's website. We've got 2 years worth of work on there, and it's been insane and powerful and just great to use. But there's one thing that has really caught my eye, and that is Framer keep updating. Nearly every other week, they're bringing a huge update, and the newest one is called Design Pages. This means that Framer now isn't just a website design tool where you can design code-free websites beautifully like this one that I'm doing, video coming soon, but now you can design just normally. Graphics, social media graphics, you've got the pen tool in there with a whole vector editing workflow, which is pretty cool. You can start in Framer using design pages just to rough out some ideas collaboratively, which we do as a team as well. And when you need it to go to a website, You just promote it to a website. Framer isn't just a site builder, it's a true design tool that also publishes professional production ready sites. And it's free, so click the link down below, and thank you Framer for sponsoring this video and making it happen. This is the big change here, the UK government logo. It apparently only changed from this black one to this white one with very minor changes, and obviously a lot of people are going to say, yeah, that's wrong. You can't be spending £500,000 on just changing the dot and calling that your main work. Well, this isn't actually true. A lot of people who aren't in the graphic design world will think that this change in the logo is the big part of the change. It really isn't. It isn't the main flagship. The flagship is the system and all of the brand assets surrounding it. Let's have a look at how this logo works. So we've got three main elements. We've got the gov.uk wordmark with the dot in there, the crown, which is obviously UK crown, and the lockup, which is what we call a logo combination mark, crown and the type. Our wordmark has been redrawn, elevating the dot into a position that signifies the connection between government and the UK. Okay, I don't know how it's been redrawn. I think it's the exact same typography, don't quote me on that, but they have moved that dot up. What I do like about this so far in just checking this guidelines is the amount of work they're going into explaining different things. One thing that I find really interesting about this lockup is because there's so many different elements. You've got the crown, the logo type, and the dot all working in one. They actually balance this and create a system around this main dot in the middle of the crown. Three of those equals the space in between the icon, the crown, and the logo type. And the size of the gov.uk logo type with the dot should be 2 of these circles here, or dots. Lots of dots. It's pretty normal, pretty clever, and it's a way that we as graphic designers can actually see what the sizing should be at any given scale. Here's some different lockups here of how it all works and blah, blah, blah. Clear space, this is basically where you can't put anything around it. It uses the dot again. Minimum sizing, if you notice with the minimum crown, they get rid of the dot in the middle, and logo colors with different versions of it, and how not to use the gov.uk logo. Honestly, it's a really extensive document, but a lot of people are angry, and understandably, because they don't understand what a rebrand really is. When in reality, this wasn't a rebrand, it was more of a refresh. In fact, there's an article down below that I'll link to one of the people who actually worked on this project, and it was very interesting to read their reasonings. So here are my main points. When an agency is tasked with rebranding or refreshing, it can mean two different things. A rebrand could be a totally big overhaul of an identity system, kind of like with Jaguar. That didn't work out well. A refresh is kind of like what Instagram's done over the years. Kind of like what Google did, where they just changed very slowly, very small parts of their identity over time. These refreshes aren't designed to be just massive changes. They're supposed to be slight and subtle changes that are meaningful. And a lot of you might think that that means less work, but in reality, for gov.uk, I can believe that a lot of research actually went into this. However, they aren't letting us see that research at the minute. Over $500,000 seems like a lot when you just see the logo by itself. But when you look more into it, the typography, how everything's being used, this extensive system, it becomes more understandable as to why they're changing things. I'll leave all of the links down below, but this seems expensive. And it really is. And when we think about government websites, especially gov.uk, where it's not just a place for information, it's a place to find out personal information about yourself, then there needs to be a clear communication strategy and identity surrounding that. And in just looking through these guidelines that we have here, the gov.uk brand guidelines, you can see how they're working on it and how they're taking what gov.uk used to be, just a website, to more of an experience with its users. Now, for the cost of it, £500,000, I'll leave that up to you guys down below in the comments. So let me know what you think of the gov.uk brand identity refresh and maybe how you would have done it different. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.